Look, man, I am just as surprised as you are about the ending of Age of Calamity, and the timeline that it created completely blew me away. In this week's video, let's have a conversation about this new timeline that Age of Calamity created and what it could mean for the sequel to Breath of the Wild. Let's hop into things, man. Hey there, I'm Derek, the creator of Zelda Theory. I'm a massive Zelda fan, so content on this channel will be all about the Legend of Zelda series. Expect videos like walkthroughs, guides, countdown videos, theories, obviously, as my goal for this channel is to be your best source for Zelda. If you're new here and you find any value in our conversation today, be sure to subscribe and turn on all notifications for weekly Zelda content. I appreciate you so much. The surprising conclusion to Age of Calamity has raised questions about the upcoming sequel to Breath of the Wild, and it's extremely unclear which timeline Breath of the Wild 2 is going to take place in. Breath of the Wild opens with Link waking up with no memories of his life, and we all know this by now, it's been 3 years. The player can choose to scour Hyrule for Link's memories with the aid of the Sheikah Slate, and if they do it, it turns out that Link was indeed the guardian of Princess Zelda a century before the events of Breath of the Wild actually began. Calamity Ganon was prophesized to return to Hyrule, so Princess Zelda had to unlock her powers in order to seal him away. Link was mortally wounded and had to be sealed within the Shrine of Resurrection in order to save his life. He wakes up a century later, reclaims the Master Sword, and slays Calamity Ganon. That is literally the SparkNotes version of the 100+ hour game that is Breath of the Wild. Now at E3 2019, Nintendo revealed a massive trailer for the sequel to the Breath of the Wild. It's about 2 minutes long. I don't know about you, but I have watched this trailer so many times in search of clues. But the ending of Age of Calamity definitely threw every theory that I had out the window. And now it's definitely way more unclear than before which timeline Breath of the Wild 2 is actually going to fall into. Age of Calamity initially seemed as if it would be a prequel to Breath of the Wild that showed the events of the original war against Calamity Ganon, but it actually involves time travel. Spoiler, by the way. Is there like a time limit? Because the game's been out for like ever, so it's been over a month, so I don't think you have to really say spoiler. But anyway, in Breath of the Wild, Princess Zelda accidentally sends a guardian named Teriko back in time. Teriko warns the citizens of Hyrule about the coming of Calamity Ganon, allowing them to better prepare for the upcoming battle. It's due to Teriko's actions that the races of Hyrule band together and Princess Zelda awakens her powers before Calamity Ganon's arrival. Teriko also prevents the 4 divine beasts from being defeated by summoning Ryu, Teba, Sidon, and Yonobo from the future. At the end of Age of Calamity, Teriko sacrifices its life to weaken Calamity Ganon, allowing Princess Zelda to seal him away. This then creates a whole other timeline where the events of Breath of the Wild actually never happened. Link is never wounded, the champions were never slain, the divine beasts were never enslaved, and Zelda wasn't trapped with Calamity Ganon for a century. The 4 warriors from the future era are sent back to their original timeline at the end of the game, and a new era of peace, quote unquote, hopefully begins. I want to talk about the Breath of the Wild 2 trailer. It's definitely tempting to think that the trailer shown at Nintendo's E3 2019 event might have been hiding a secret this whole time. Maybe the game shown at the end of the event actually takes place in the Age of Calamity timeline, and it starts the Link and Princess Zelda from the timeline where Ganon was defeated. Breath of the Wild 2's trailer is so short and extremely vague that it's certainly possible. It is very hard to make the argument, however, due to the text at the end of the trailer. It clearly states at the end of the trailer, quote, "The sequel to The Legend of Zelda, Breath of the Wild is now in development," end quote. And it doesn't reference Age of Calamity at all. It's very possible that Nintendo was kind of bending the truth a little bit, but it's more likely that the game is a sequel to one of the best-selling games on the Switch, rather than an unknown property that involved other publishers, if that makes sense. Breath of the Wild was this Switch's first big success, and Nintendo is definitely going to capitalize on that for sure. In closing, it is very possible that Age of Calamity could have referenced the 4 heroes who were sent back in time. Ryu, Teba, Sidon, and Yonobo are sent back to the future at the end of Age of Calamity, and they could retain their memories of the game. They might even mention the events of Age of Calamity, but it's unlikely to have a major effect on the story of Breath of the Wild 2. As it turns out, you really shouldn't be too concerned about the Age of Calamity timeline taking over as the source of the Breath of the Wild sequel. So hey man, if you enjoyed this video, be sure to subscribe, turn on all notifications, and check out the other Zelda content on the channel. YouTube's gonna recommend a video for you specifically on the left here, and I'm gonna put a video up on the right side here that I think you're gonna really dig. So continue to be the light, and remember, it's dangerous to go alone. Let's head on over to some more Zelda content.